This show is part of the Transpodcaster Visibility Initiative.
It's been a while, Sash. Everything okay?
Yeah, the whole depression, dysphoria, dealing daily with trans folks, just the everyday life of a normal girl like me.
Well, I've got something to help maybe cheer you up.
Oh yeah? And what's that exactly?
Some new movies from one of your favorite franchises.
And that's supposed to make me feel better. How?
Well, aren't shit movies kind of your thing?
Alright, fair point. So what exactly are we reviewing this time, Ian?
This time we have Critters, a new binge, Critters Attack, and the fan film Critters Bounty Hunter.
Oh, and what exactly did we just watch, Ian?
Well, Critters movies?
Excuse me? Movies? What I saw was one subpar flick. Something that felt like a web series created by a fan, and an actually good fan film that the studio has nothing to do with.
Okay, but they're definitely better than parts 3 and 4 of the franchise.
Well, we haven't exactly gotten to those yet. But I wouldn't go all that far. In comparison to what we just watched, Critters 3 and 4 look like masterpieces.
So, do you mind giving a summary to the audience about what we just watched?
Sure. First up, we have Critters, a new binge.
I'm uncertain if this was meant to be a reboot or a retcon foregoing the last 2 chapters of the original series or not. Basically, it's set up that the Krates return to Earth to find a missing comrade. Standing in their way is a group of teenagers and bounty hunters. Directed by Jordan Rubin of Zombievers fame, with subpar special effects with heavy emphasis on CGI, a terrible parody of the original franchise, and even a subplot about a Krite-human hybrid. I'm uncertain what exactly Shudder, Warner Brothers, and Blue Ribbon Content were trying to do here. And I hope this isn't going to be continued as the cliffhanger ending suggests. The fact that this was shown on Shudder as an 8-part short film series and not just edited into one film is beyond me. Very different tone from the original series, but it is appreciated that bounty hunters and the Krites having some form of intelligence, although up to the nth degree here, and they're part of the series. But overall, this is a farce of what the franchise is. The horror elements are almost completely ignored, aside from some gore, creature effects, and the comedy that it's overly focused on. Sure, the films had both comedy, horror, and sci-fi, but it maintained a balance with the horror sci-fi being more heavily weighted than the comedy elements. So, I'm taking it you're not a fan of the new binge?
Oh, hell no. It's not even worth the $60 annual admission price for Shudder. If you really have to see this, please take advantage of their 7-day free trial. Trust me, you're gonna regret that $60 expenditure once you see this.
So, what do you have to say about Critters Attacks?
Again, I honestly have no clue what Warner Brothers or Blue Ribbon Content was trying to do here, at all.
There is no connection with what they did on the Shudder series, and aside from a cameo from Dee Wallace as an Aunt Dee, but not as Helen Brown from the original film, there's little to no connection to the original series, let alone a new binge. Okay, so what's Attacks about then?
Critters Attack focuses on 20-year-old sushi delivery girl, Drea,
whom reluctantly takes on a babysitting job for a college professor in hopes to helping her chances of getting accepted at that school. Struggling to entertain the kids and her own brother, she decides to take them on a hike where they discover a friendly female critter. While this occurs, the Krites we're familiar with soon crash land, seeking out the female while cutting a bloody swatch through the local populace. Amongst all of this, we're introduced to a quote-unquote Aunt Dee, an intergalactic but non-shape-shifting bounty hunter on Earth who's out to hunt the furry beast down. So wait, Attacks isn't good either?
Well, it's definitely a step up from Shudder's attempt at a miniseries, but that's not saying much.
Both Binge and Attacks make me want to watch Critters 3 and 4 instead. I will give Attacks its due, however, since it appears that more practical effects were used, and it was less focused on comedy, maintaining a similar balance to the original films. But, again, there is no connection to the originals, other than Dee Wallace, and I'm uncertain if she's playing a character related to the one she played in the first film. I feel there's a good picture somewhere between the two of these concepts, Binge and Attacks, but it's confusing how and where it would all fit into the franchise as a whole. Well, maybe they're both reboots or simple retcons for the series.
Maybe, but I sincerely doubt it.
A reboot would try to explain the relationship of the Krites and bounty hunters more. Sure, it's an interesting twist to see the bounty hunters in Binge take on a more villainous role, creating a three-way struggle with our Earthbound leads and the Krites. But we already saw something similar to that in Critters 4. Not exactly, but still. In Attacks, all we get told is that Aunt Dee is a hunter, but there's no shape-shifting, and other than having some spacey tech, there's no clue that she may or may not be an alien. On top of that, there is no explanation or motive in these films as to why the Krites are on Earth, and why the bounty hunters are even after them. Then you have the whole female queen critter, which adds a whole new twist, but it's not fully explored. In Attacks, you have the evil Krites able to breed without a female, as they had in previous entries. Granted, I don't understand the odd chest bursting that was going on for the birthings. I think they got their franchises confused since Krites are egg-based. But if the evil ones can do this on their own, why are females or queens needed? It's all confusing and conflicting to itself. So, Attacks isn't good either?
It's certainly better than Shudder's Binge, but not by much.
I'll give credit where credit's due. It's all practical effects and very little to no CGI, so I can deal with it. But we got better direct-to-video sequels to Critters in the 90s, and I'm lost why we didn't get that now. Well, what about that fan film, Bounty Hunter?
For a 7-minute fan film that was made on a budget that would have been just a fraction of what it took to make both Binge and Attack, Bounty Hunter delivers.
The effects are all practical, from the Krite itself to the bounty hunter's appearance, without having to have a morph on screen. And even if it did, I doubt it would look as bad as the shape-shifting elements in Binge. The plot is sound and plays homage to the original film down to the concepts and character designs while giving it a modern feel. There's very little comedy here except some nods and winks at the original films while poking fun at its own limits. To even mention that the hunter isn't using his camouflaging skills, which is what a Critter film should be. To think that this was made 4 years before Warner New Line decided to revisit this franchise again. This is the route they should have taken. If there is further entries into the Critter series from here, they need to hit up Jordan Downey to help them. Do you think that this is the end of Critters moving forward?
Honestly, I sincerely fucking doubt it.
If anything, the Shudder series and Attacks digital DVD, Blu-ray, and rental sales will garner Warner Brothers a profit. Sci-Fi is still in talks to gain the franchise rights to make their own series as well. Sure, all of that is enough to make any fan of the franchise groan, but with a new Gremlins film on the horizon, along with a series of its own, maybe Warner's will be interested in revisiting this franchise with a more serious tone on down the line. Well, we can only hope.
Oh, I guarantee that sometime in the near future, you and I will be able to kill more Krites. Until next slide, take scare, creep it real, and
unpleasant screams.
kill more crates.
Hour of the night, streets are